Hidden Feelings, written by paxtofattel. In the small town of Ponyville, one can find a rather peculiar building near the outskirts. No, it isn't peculiar because it contains a pony-eating monstrosity born within the very depths of the underworld, but rather because of its peculiar appearance. The exterior was that of a carousel, very similar to the ones that can be found in a carnival. It was called, oddly enough, the Carousel Boutique. What was most interesting, however, was the purpose of this ornate establishment. If you were to ask a noble pony in the most fashionable districts of Canterlot where she got that wonderful dress she was wearing, she would tell you that it came from the same place that had just been mentioned. The Carousel Boutique was well known amongst the elite of Equestria for being the provider of wonderfully fashionable dresses. Inside the shop was just as extravagant as the outside, if not more. The walls were painted in various shades of pink and purple, making the room seem much brighter. Around the room, a large assortment of neatly placed rolls of fabric can be found spread about, along with half a dozen mannequins, adorned with fabrics sewn together that have yet to be made into dresses. The room was gorgeous, but not nearly as much as the shop owner herself, Rarity. Her swirling mane and tail are a particular shade of dark violet, while her coat was the most generous of whites. But above all, her most alluring features was her azure eyes so dazzling they could tear a dragon from a gem. The unicorn's name was known through every corner of the country, even all the way in Madrid. Her designs have appeared in almost every well-known magazine and catalog edition. She was at the prime of her career, and if there was ever a time to bask in pride, this would have been it. But Rarity could hardly feel like celebrating. She didn't feel much at all, in truth. This little pony felt as if the weight of the world was on her shoulders, and she couldn't shake off the feeling, no matter how adorable Opal looked in her new outfit. Rarity was currently in the process of sewing her newest design, a dress that a noble mare from Trottingham had commissioned her to make. She was just about to finally finish it when she accidentally sewed two sleeves together. The unicorn let out a frustrated sigh as she levitated the ruined piece into the trash bin. I guess third time wasn't the charm. Rarity exhaled as she began preparing the materials to start the dress. Again. An ignorant pony would merely classify this lack of focus as stress finally catching up to her. However, the cause was far more complicated. You see, Rarity was suffering from what many ponies her age were afflicted with. She was in love. Who was she in love with, you may ask? The same ignorant pony would say that she had her eyes on a stallion of very high standing. Once again, that couldn't be farther away from the truth. In fact, it wasn't a high society airhead she had fallen for, but rather a humble unicorn mare such as herself. What was even more surprising was that she was in love with one of her greatest friends. The pony in question's name was Twilight Sparkle. She looked up and let out an audible sigh as she magically slid over her chaise lounge, onto which she let herself fall onto. Tears began forming at the edge of her azure eyes, and she once again hid herself in her hoofs.
One of the most well-known design unicorns in all of Equestria, and I am not even able to express my feelings. Oh, woe is me!
Rarity was uncertain as to when such brash emotions had surfaced. She suspected it was shortly after the defeat of Discord. She had started taking note as to how she began, more and more, to enjoy being in Twilight's company more than any of her other friends. Rarity had suspected these feelings were simply to do with the fact that Twilight was much more formal than the others, not to mention that she was originally from Canterlot, which Rarity enjoyed immensely. However, she soon began to realize that what she felt was far above just simple admiration. There was no doubt about it. Rarity loved her studious friend, but she couldn't work up the resolve to tell her.
Perhaps I am meant to suffer, never knowing love, like Brodeo and Philiad.
She decided to go to the kitchen and serve herself some fresh herbal tea, hoping that it would calm her nerves, but she was promptly interrupted by knocking on her door.
I wonder who could that be? I'm not expecting any clients today.
She trotted over to the door and opened it, putting on a fake smile to hide her earlier suffering, only to have it disappear completely as she got a good look at her guest. It was her, the pony she had been longing for these long, painful months.
Hello, Rarity. Oh, hello, Twilight. What brings you here?
Twilight gestured to the saddlebags donned upon her back.
I brought these books in ancient equestrian fashion you asked for. They were surprisingly hard to find, actually. Thank you, darling. These books will most certainly help with my latest designs,
she said, levitating the books out of the bags and onto her vanity.
Would you like some tea? I was just about to make some. I guess I could stay for a little while. I'm sure Spike can take care of himself while I'm gone.
She smiled and walked into the boutique.
Excellent! Please, take a seat. I shall be back shortly.
As soon as she entered the kitchen, tears were once again threatening to burst out.
Oh, goddess! Why must you torment me like this? Why must fate be so cruel to moi?
Rarity, is everything all right in there?
Yes, darling. Everything is okay. I'm just setting up the kettle.
As soon as the tea was finally ready, she poured 2 cups and returned to the living room with both of them in tow. She floated a cup over to Twilight, who thanked her in response. She took a sip and her face broke into a surprised smile.
The tea is delicious, Rarity. Where did you get it? A crane merchant from the east gave it to me. I'm so very glad you like it.
Twilight soon began talking about the new tomes she had recently begun researching, unaware that her friend's mind had drifted to other places. Rarity couldn't help but marvel at how stunning Twilight looked, like a mirror sculpted by the very goddess herself. Oddly, that caused her mind to conjure up an image of Faustia molding Twilight out of clay. She mentally facehuffed herself back into reality, where she had failed to realize that Twilight had finished speaking.
Rarity, are you okay? Huh? Oh, I apologize, darling. I must have spaced out. Are you sure? You don't look so good. I'm sure, darling. You're a terrible liar. Even Applejack can lie better than you just did. Maybe I should just confess. I guess. Truth is, Twilight, I'm not okay. Far from it. These past few months have been torturous. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't even work on any of my latest designs. Oh, dear Celestia, are you sick? Do you need me to get Nurse Redheart?
Rarity shook her head solemnly.
Twilight, I'm not ill. Well, not physically, at least. Ill of heart is more appropriate. I'm like this because...
She broke down. She couldn't say it. How could she? She hid herself in her hooves, crying. Not a moment later, she felt a wonderful warmth wrapping around her. Twilight had wrapped her hooves around the crying mare, not knowing what else to do. Rarity felt herself relax and blush. Twilight's mane slightly fell over her nose, and Rarity breathed in the scent of books and wood. The scent sent a shot of euphoria straight into her system, and the tears finally began to stop.
Twilight, I love you. Me? You love me?
Rarity looked up at the beautiful lavender mare, gazing lovingly into her violet eyes, and smiled.
Yes, Twilight, I love you. Ever since we defeated Discord. Ever since.
She bit her lower lip, the words stopping at her throat. She took in a shaky breath and continued.
Ever since you saved me from a life of inconceivable greed, I've loved you more than words can express. I love you. I am never as happy as when I am with you.
A tear trickled down her face as she raised a huff onto Twilight's cheek.
Your smile brings me comfort on even my worst days. Your laugh lifts up my heart into the heavens. And your voice is sweeter than any music I have ever heard.
Rarity smiled at Twilight, who had been silently and inexpressively paying great attention to Rarity's confession.
I've wanted to tell you for so long, but I could never bring myself to. Until now, that is.
Rarity brought down her huff from Twilight's face and looked away, closing her eyes and holding back tears.
I know you probably don't feel the same way.
Fresh tears started forming at Rarity's azure eyes as she pressed on.
And I know you might not want to be my friend anymore. Could you please, darling, could you please find it in your heart not to hate me?
Silence. A horrible, eternal silence that of which nothing Rarity had ever experienced. She started praying feverishly that this was just some terrible nightmare. That any moment now she would wake up in her bed in the middle of the night drenched in sweat. But such a thing never happened. Instead, Rarity felt a huff turn her head. Then a sweet pair of lips made contact with hers. Her eyes shot open, then closed once again, all on their own. Immediately, she felt a wonderfully warm sensation course through her body as all the grief, misery, doubt, and self-pity she had felt throughout these past months suddenly vanished. She pulled her head back just an inch to be able to confirm what just happened without scaring Twilight away. She flew at a nearby pin and poked her flank.
Ow!
She thought gracefully. Indeed, not a dream. Rarity burst into a huge grin and leaned forward once again to kiss Twilight. This time, it was Twilight's turn to be surprised, as Rarity kissed her with such a passion that she felt herself becoming hot. She let herself indulge in the kiss and returned the kiss with equal passion, wrapping her hooves around Rarity's neck. Rarity ran her hooves around Twilight's mane, even tugging it at times, as she felt herself blushing deeply at the passion of the kiss. Rarity parted from the kiss, lamentably, knowing that as she continued, it wouldn't end till morning. And it was early evening. Twilight inhaled sharply and deeply, as she realized she had been holding her breath. Rarity opened her eyes and saw that Twilight was smiling at her. A deep, scarlet blush spread across her features. She didn't say anything, but the look on her face said everything that needed to be said.
I feel the same way.
No words were spoken as the two mirrors closed in for another kiss. That day, two friends who had a strong bond through friendship gained a stronger bond formed by love, and Rarity had never felt better. And what about the dress? Well, let's just say the client didn't receive it for a very, very long while.